Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Business Today. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Wiyinza Nakauchi on sign language. But first, a look at the top stories.
In the headlines tonight, Higher Education Students Financing Board agrees to loans to arts students. Ghana attacks Kamuli district in Busoga.
All right, now we start off with the government and the Higher Education Student Financing Board, which has opened up the students' loan scheme to students pursuing tourism and hospitality course effect from the 2022-2023 academic year. The board decided to take on tourism only from humanities because of its support and the role that is critical for national development. Pedison Mumbere reports.
During the meeting of the Higher Education Students Financing Board held on March 31st, 2022, tourism and hospitality programs were approved. According to Bob Nwajira, the Communications Officer, Higher Education Students Financing Board, the board has been supporting science, technology, engineering, and mathematics except people with disabilities. The policy shift was, however, discussed and found appropriate for implementation. Tourism contribution to the country's GDP is significant and third after coffee and fish.
Biggest sector we have supported in the last 8 years, over 30% of those we've supported are into the health and the medical sciences. So those are the doctors, the nurses, the midwives, because of the gap that has been. The second biggest group were the science teachers, to fill up the gaps of science education in Uganda. The third biggest group was engineers, just to fit in with the extractives industry, the petrochemical industry that is coming up right now. The fourth was agriculture, given it is the bedrock of our economy, and the rest of the natural sciences. Now, 30th meeting of the board. The board considered a new sector which has already been identified under the national development programs or the national development plans that have been developed, including Vision 2040. They have identified that the tourism sector is the next big thing. Before the pandemic, tourism and hospitality had reached supporting about 7.5% of our GDP. It was estimated that before the pandemic, about over 600,000 Ugandans were in the tourism sector, employed formally and informally in the tourism sector. And the NDP3, which we are currently users, has identified it as one of the sectors that will transform our country to the upper middle income status. So when the board sat, it has considered the first humanities group of programs, and those are the programs under tourism and hospitality. For the 9th cohort, which is starting applications this next week, we will be having bachelors of tourism and hospitality management and a cohort of other programs around tourism and hospitality.
Smart 24 TV's efforts to speak to the Dean of Makerere University Business School were futile, but an administrator speaking on condition of anonymity told the Smart 24 TV that they have enrolled over 3,000 tourism students this year, but over 100 had dropped out due to lack of tuition. Nwajira cautioned the public against fraudsters who camouflage as staff from the board and extort money in the name of speeding up the process of acquiring students' loan.
You are seeking support, but you want to use shortcuts. There's no agents. The loan scheme has no field staff. we are using the system, which you can even use your phone to apply. Please do not pay any money to anyone for the purpose of accessing the student loan. The only money you pay is 53,000 in the bank for loan processing or loan application, and that's the only money you should pay. And we pay in Centenary Bank, we pay in DFCU Bank, but we have had stories where people have been defrauded 3, 4, 5 million. We had a story last week of his 6 cows, and it was such a sad story.
Uganda Tourism Board, in a 2020 Statistics and Economic Analysis Brief, reported that the country ranked about 1.5 trillion from tourism exports in 2019, which was 9.4% higher than earnings 7 years earlier. The bigger driver was increased inflow of African tourists, main leisure, where average premium per capita spend grossed $1,000, that's approximately 3.7 million.
Higher Education Students Financing Board has considered tourism and hospitality management program into the students' loan. Want this going to attract the appetite of other art students, for example, music and drama, because entertainment has also contributed to the gross domestic production of this country. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Away from that, Busoga link with Nagana attack on their livestock. The disease presents itself with emaciation, loss of appetite and low productivity leading to death. And that particular report will be coming in later on, but let's first switch our eyes to the Kampala City Deputy Executive Director, Engineer David Luyimbazi, who has given Tisenyi and Entebbe State taxi operators a grace period of 1 week to address the issue of passengers failing to access Tisenyi Taxi Park. Passenger access is complicated by the establishment of Entebbe Stage within the old taxi park. We have more from our reporter Naomi Mutumba, who was downtown this evening.
The relocation of the stage is due to high risks of street robbers to the passengers. However, the operator taxi stage is illegal, a matter that both KCCA and taxi drivers want resolved immediately. There is disruption to order in the city as taxis seek to operate from non-gazetted places, including loading in the middle of roads.
I have so much pain. I have very few words. I ask the authorities to guide us because we are always arrested for no reason.
Early this year, Kampala Capital City Authority directed all stakeholders in the public transport sector to brave for changes aimed at restoring traffic order in the city. City authorities are implementing a broader public transport reorganization plan that is likely to affect cyclists and more likely to improve traffic flow in the city. Under this, the Entebbe taxi stages were moved from the new and old taxi park to Chisenyi Gwanda Park and Usafi.
It mainly is about the illegal loading on the streets of different stages and then dislocation of stages from taxi park to a different taxi park. Whereas there was a better how do I call it? Because there is a gazetting which was made by KCCA and a route chart which shows such vehicles should be located and even the route chart that they're supposed to use such and such type of road. This road or this road or this road.
It's been agreed is that, of course, it is agreed that the operations of Entebbe Stage in the old taxi park are illegal and not authorized by KCCA. However, there must be a transition period during which we're going to sensitize the traveling public, sensitize the operators of the taxis to allow them to go back to the gazetted places, that is Usafi Taxi Park. So we're going to convene a meeting between the leadership of the old taxi park, Chisenyi Taxi Park and Usafi Taxi Park, together with the Operators Federation, the security agencies and KCCA to come up with a roadmap to take the taxis out, the Entebbe stage taxis that are operating the old taxi park back to Usafi.
Although a majority of the taxis relocated in line with the directive, a sizable number of them maintained a presence in the new tax park, which hence affecting their counterparts in Chisenyi.
Be convening the different stakeholders, agree on the activities, including sensitization, setting up the infrastructure to make sure that the Usafi stage can work. We're thinking of even things like having a commuter shuttle to move commuters from the old taxi park to Kisenyi, so that they don't face the challenges they face right now of walking to the Usafi taxi park. Now, we shall come up with a roadmap after about 2 weeks, indicating to the public.
He has assured us that it is going to be done about 2 weeks' time. They will remove those vehicles, plus the police also. And, but mainly they tried to use it as a Entebbe, but there are so many stages behind Entebbe. Like Busabala, Sanji, Salama Mnyonyo, so many.
This is the Entebbe where I used to be a beehive of activities, and as I speak now, this stage is empty. Drivers are tasking KCCA to reinforce operations on this stage. Naomi Mtumba, Business Today, Smart 24, driving business.
All right, now let's switch our eyes back to the other report coming in from the Busoga farmers who are struggling with the Nagana attack on their livestock. The disease presents itself with emaciation, loss of appetite and low productivity leading to death. Farmer Nathan Sengoba in Kamuli district.
Kategeri Stephen, a farmer of Naluwoli in Butansi sub-county Kamuli district, noted that the theta flies have become resistant to pesticides. The spread of Nagana is high and threatening farmers' investments in livestock production.
We are experiencing a resurgence, a comeback of the sassaflies because as a district we have a low capacity to handle pests and disease control programs. So we request the government to increase on the support on the side of pests and disease control. Also, we have other diseases like the tick-borne diseases, East Coast fever.
Farmers are now asking government to invest in research in the long run and cure in the short run.
With Nagana, we were rearing animals in Namusaga in Nawankofu. Our animals are suffering always from, they just drop. We are badly suffering with Nagana as cattle farmers. We are requesting for the government to give us more support against that disease. Thank you.
Now we have a challenge of system. When they bait our animals, that's when we get the trips. But we have ant-trips on the market. Only that farmers don't know how to diagnose these diseases. It is always important for the farmers to seek advice from the people who are well versed with information about diseases.
Wahome George Mutibwa, the vet officer of Namasagali sub-county, noted that Nagana is troubling for the shores of River Nile, Lake Choga, busy areas and other places that harbors theta flies.
Trips. So it's important that authorities come in to help by putting fly traps that can help trap those flies, and also slash and also treat animals, also spray animals to enable these animals to be.
The story was compiled by Senkoba Nathan in Kamuli district for Smart 24 TV Business Today.
to the trader community. The Federation of Small and Medium Enterprises is raising a red flag over closure of businesses. Uganda Revenue Authority announced some relief to taxpayers when it provided an extension period for the filing of returns. Monica Nabyonga spoke to the Executive Director of the Federation of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises and now reports.
Commodity prices, high prices for fuel products, and then high inflation, making worse the earlier challenges that were caused by the COVID-19 pandemic that still exists and that's still affecting businesses in some sectors. So these are the major challenges now. Because of inflation and the high cost of living, people are not willing to spend. And when people are not willing to spend, it means that businesses cannot earn. And if businesses cannot earn, it means that their survival.
URA issued business continuity measures in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, given its direct and indirect consequences on the economy. It later provided penalties that are now scaring smallholder businesses.
Discriminatory. So for me, that wouldn't really be the issue. I think that the issue for us at the moment is more around the penalties that government has instituted to encourage compliance and efficiency. What government wants to do is a good thing. See, we want more businesses to be compliant, businesses pay their taxes on time. The challenge is that if the penalties are too high, it means that if businesses make mistakes, obviously there are people who want to dodge taxes, but if businesses make genuine mistakes, it means that they can be wiped out completely. Because if you have a penalty of 110 million, 50 million, 30 million, this is a lot. So this is something that we think should be changed.
Relatedly, the Bank of Uganda raised its benchmark interest rate by 100 BPS to 8.5% during a special meeting held on July 5th of 2022 to counter the accelerating inflation and support the weakening shilling. The annual headline inflation and core inflation to 6.8% and 5.5% in June of 2022 from 6.3% and 5.1% in May, above the bank's target of 5%. This has created tension among SMEs.
If you're not able to earn from your business, now it means you have to borrow because you need to make sure that you keep up with the expenses. But the cost of borrowing is also high because as they raise the interest rate, as the central bank tries to curb inflation and raises interest rate, it makes it more difficult for people to lend, for banks and other financial institutions to lend to you.
The government has adopted promoting value addition as one way of boosting SMEs. So gone ahead to allocate money to the parish development model, which is believed to kickstart productivity that is going to change the fortunes of SMEs. Monica Nabyonga, Smart 24 Business.
Now, climate change is one of the greatest challenges facing the world today, and its impact to the environment and human health significantly affects sustainable growth. Standard Chartered Bank is providing a fund of up to $300 billion to support positive change initiatives globally. Smart 24 TV's Rona Nahabwe reports that Uganda will be among the beneficiaries of this specific fund.
Has mostly a tropical climate characterized by stable rainfall patterns. However, the effects of climate change have turned the seasons around the country experiencing shorter or longer rains and harsher droughts, especially in the eastern and northeastern Uganda. Speaking during the Standard Chartered Bank Business Immersion on Climate Change, as the Private Sector Foundation Uganda explains.
London context. During the financial year 2019, disasters were reported in over 70 districts, impacting over 800,000 lives, displacing over 21,000 families. These disasters were environmental degradation, rapid unplanned urbanization, all factors of sustainability. When you ask, is it relevant? Yes, it is, because about 560 billion Uganda shillings in economic losses as a country. So which is the engine of our economic growth, this is important to us. So this sustain is here now.
And how does the emission of carbon dioxide harm the environment? Are we planting more trees?
Support other partners, to support the businesses to reduce on carbon emission. We really understand that every single day, 24 hours, we are emitting 110 million tons to the skies, and this is damaging our environment. And mostly, it is through some of the investments that we are making.
To make sure that our countries are not depleted from an environmental perspective. You know, if somebody's factory, I think the new rules should say that put up a factory by telling us what's going to be your carbon emission. If you put a factory, go and plant equivalent trees, then you start putting up a factory. Because we have a lot of land. We still have a lot of opportunity, but amazing fertile land here. You know, so I think it's just putting the right intervention. It's having the right collaboration.
There are also other wetlands around Kampala which have been invaded by people. And we have said now moving forward, there are no factories in wetlands. There are no factories in wetlands. And we listened. One of the clients or people in the audience, I think it was from the media, raised it. And this is really a call for action. The urgency to take action is what we are looking for. Use clean technologies. So they are going to be funding clean technologies. That's what the bank is saying. And that's what everybody who is involved in manufacturing should be looking at. And we are very lucky that the funding institutions are now saying, led by Standard Chartered Bank, is that let us adopt technologies that are green, that will save our environment. And these technologies are available, as the MD of Standard Chartered Bank said. They are available in the world, but people want to avoid them because they are not cautious about the damage they are causing to the...
The issue of putting industries on wetlands was a call to action. Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, driving business.
As taxi operators in Kampala's downtown areas are complaining of business disruptions following major roadworks in their areas. Major routes connecting to the city center be closed, hence affecting traffic flow in the capital. Winnie Nakauchi with the details on the plight of public transporters.
Passengers are equally inconvenienced, resorted to ungazetted taxi stages. Drivers are now saying the payment of KCCA dues will be hard since their major revenue and streams are affected. Due to the ongoing road construction within the city center, stakeholders in the transport industry have been largely affected. The most affected are the areas of Kafumbe Mukasa Road, Semugoma Road and Nabagereka Road, where the Entebbe Jinja flyover is being constructed. Passengers equally a challenge in the areas.
Yes, working from the same. So we pray that they can finish it earlier so that we can get passengers here in Kisenyi so that we can work. Because as they are constructing, passengers can't pass to go to the other side of Usaru. So they stop there. So that's in all the advance working. We are not working because of that flyover. So we pray that they can finish it earlier. We also get passengers in the Kisenyi, wherever those who are